Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Big Bite Baits. Ricky with the coach on Monday. It's Monday as usual, Brandon. Everything's good here. Actually, it's not raining today. Every time I've been on live the last month, it seems like it's been raining. But we do have a pretty day today, so definitely. I just want to kind of start out the show today and say, if you got any questions, get them in. We're a little short on questions today. We could use some questions. So if you got something on your mind, throw it in at the end, and we'll try our best to get to it. Sure. Before we get started, I do want to mention to everyone, if you don't have the new catalog came out of iCast. It's got the smallmouth on it on the front and the back. You can request one of these online. How they do that online, Brandon?
So you can go on there, and there should be a link you can press to request a catalog. If you have an order or something like that you want to put in, you can definitely try and do that as well and get one with it. Or you can probably send us an email to our contact at Big Bite Baits email address, and we'll be glad to try and get one to
you. That way. I just like to have a catalog around the house. I'll usually keep 2 or 3, one in the boat shed, one by my chair in the den, where I have some good reading material. So definitely something to look at. Anyway, if you haven't got a catalog, check on it and get you one. Okay, I want to talk real quickly about Sensation. We've been building that up and talking about the new Sensation bag and the new bait. And I don't know if you watched the bass this weekend or not, the elite guys at Oahe. That's how you pronounce that. Is that correct?
Oahe, something like
that. Oahe, whatever. Anyway, they were catching them pretty good there. And Drew Cook, I know for sure, was using the Somolly. And I think he finished in the top 20 throwing this particular bait right here and was doing real well with it. And that's our flat-sided little short worm-looking bait that's new in the Sensations. Got that good scent on it. Definitely need to check that out. And the nice thing about this particular bait, we've got these in stock now. You can order these; they're here. Yep. So that was the first one to come in, definitely. So check on that, and it comes in about, I think, 10 or 12 colors. So definitely something to look at. Okay, all right. So I thought also while we had it was talking a little bit about hats. Last week I talked about the new hats that we've got in. We've got the new leather patch hat that's tan and black. That's really a nice hat. That's a going out to dinner hat there. It looks really good. And then we've got the new hat to match the camo hoodie, the blue and gray with the patch on it. And then we've got the what we call the locator hat. That's a pretty neat looking little hat. I like it a lot. And then I was really excited last week. The hat that we designed and we really were excited about, what we call the vintage hat, came in, and it's got the old Big Bite logo on it, but we retooled the graphic on it in the lettering, the font. We got away from that old font and just put a block font, but it's still got the little fish in the line and the red fish on it. So I'm real happy about that hat. It's a nice hat. It's a Pacific hat. It wears really good. So if you don't have one of those, they're now available on the website as well. So you can get any of those hats we just talked about on the website.
Yep.
So definitely along with a bunch of other hats. So for sure, something you might want to look at, but that's some of the newer stuff. So I thought today we might spend a few minutes and talk about our SwimOn series. We hit a home run with the SwimOn, as you well know. It went fast to being one of our best sellers, and we sold the first 2 years. We have sold a ton of them, and so what we decided to do was to give the fishermen a little something different to go along with the SwimOn, and that was a split tail SwimOn. And you can use this split tail SwimOn just like you can a regular SwimOn. You can use it on a chatterbait, swim jig, or on a spinnerbait. But what I really like about this one for a spinnerbait is if you held the two in comparison, we thinned it up quite a bit. So if you put it on a spinnerbait, it'll make your spinnerbait run true. Where a lot of times, if you get a big bait on the back of your spinnerbait, it wants to roll over on its side a little bit. With this particular thin down bait, it'll stand up true and run. And I really like the way it runs. And I think it's something unique, Same way with the chatterbait. I don't know if you remember back when the chatterbait first came out, there was a split tail grub in the box with the chatterbait when you bought it. Mm-hmm. So this is the same basic thing. It's just we took the top chatterbait bait in America, in my opinion, and now we've got a split tail version of it. So now you can pick your poison. You can do the regular tail, or you can do the dadgum split tail, either one, and it works really well. Now, the split tail doesn't come in as many colors as the standard, but I believe it comes in 7 colors, and you can pretty much match it up with most of the baits to look at. But something you might want to try, we're really excited about, and they're in stock as well, and you can order them right now and begin to use them and try them. And I know a lot of people in the fall use a spinnerbait You know, on a lot of lakes, those shad will go in the backs of the creeks, and you can target them with a spinnerbait in the fall. That's not always the case here, but in a lot of lakes, that's the truth. So that might be a bait that you might want to purchase to try and give it a try. And there's no doubt when spring gets here, that water gets stained up, that'll be a player, no doubt.
Absolutely.
So something new to look at here at Big Bites you might want to talk about. Okay, so kind of got you caught up to speed on the swim-ons, where we at with those. Okay, how about questions? We got any? I know we've got 2 or 3 old questions we can hit on, and maybe we'll get some new questions before that time gets here.
Yeah, we've got one was Kelly Outdoors is asking what our best-selling bait is.
The last 2 years, our best-selling bait's been this swim-on right here. And then, of course, we've got the old standby bait, the Fighting Frog, the Trick Stick, the Suicide Shad. They all sell real well. That's just a couple that hit my mind.
Sure.
But the last couple of years, the swim-on's been the one. It's done. We did really good when we invented that bait, for sure.
Okay. Let's see. LB Outdoors is asking, what are your favorite ways to fish a pro swimmer?
Well, that's a good question. You know, you can use a pro swimmer a lot of different ways. You can fish it like a regular swim bait on a swim bait head, especially that big model, or you can take it, put it on an Alabama rig. You can multifaceted it that way. You can use 2 or 3 different sizes on one rig. You can take that thing and use it on the back of a chatterbait, on the back of a swim jig. I know a lot of the pros do that. And then we have a little head we call a swimmer head that you can use, make a little finesse rig out of it with that 2.8 or the 3.3 that works real well. So that's just a few ways that you can fish it that are different. And that's a really good bait. It has really good action. Seems to catch a lot of fish. I know we sell a bunch of them. I know that for sure.
Absolutely. Let's see. We have JCD Living Good. He was wanting to know, what do you like best, the Toad Buzz or the Suicide Buzz?
Now, Living Good. That's pretty good there now. I need to be living good too. Definitely, I like the Toad Buzz the best. I have tried both, and on the lakes that I fish, they seem to like the Toad Buzz better. But we sell quite a few of the Suicide Shad Buzzes as well. The most popular color in that Suicide Buzz is definitely the Blue Gizzard. I think it's real popular. On the Toad Buzz, it can be a gambit of things. I like the Watermelon Red Ghost the best, but black and white's hard to beat. Sometimes you take those off, put the Hematoma Frog on there. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to go with that Toad Buzz, but I know that Toad Buzz will catch a fish. And actually, our fish didn't get in the shallow water enough this year to use it here on this lake, but I know it's a lot of fun when you can catch them early in the morning on it. It's good action. Anytime you can see those fish come up and hit, that's fun. I like that now.
Maybe in the fall, they will.
Maybe. I'm hoping in the fall, yeah, definitely.
All right, let's see. We had RB Fishing was asking, what are the best ways or some of your favorite things to look to do as the summer to fall transition takes place?
And that's something you can kind of discuss, because I think that's different on a lot of different lakes. I know if you read a lot of magazines, a lot of publications, they're going to give you this proverbial story about the shad always moving to the backs of the creeks in the fall, and you can catch those fish hemmed up and target them. That's not necessarily the case on every lake. I mean, on this lake that you live on, Brandon, we both know that's something. If you do that, you're probably not going to catch any fish. We have a lot of flats out on our lake, and the shad school out over those flats. And that's where you go in the fall to catch the fish, is where them shad are at. They're going to follow that bait.
Yeah, it seems like they really become, I call them nomadic fish. You know,
yeah, they start to roam. And
right.
If you find the right place in the right flat, you catch it. And when we had hydrilla, it made it real easy.
Yeah.
You just kind of go the hydrilla, but that's not the case right now. But I would target those fish with like a moving bait, I like to, in that time of year, I like to use a whopper popper. I like to use a rattle trap or some type of rattling bait, that seems to have worked good for me. If I want to incorporate something big bite to use in the fall, then I would definitely use an Alabama rig with a 3.5 Suicide Shad on of some variety, probably Blue Gizzard with a red one in the middle. I always like to put a teaser one on mine in the middle, something different, or maybe a Citrus Shad with a Blue Gizzard, something along those lines. But I would target them with that Alabama rig. That way you cover more ground. And those fish seem to be hanging on them pods of shad. Definitely.
I feel like, flash is a big key. So, I like to throw an underspin or something.
Right, that's right. And I like to throw the Alabama rig that's got all the blades on it. The more flash, the better.
Sure.
And I guess if you went to the back of the creek, something that we don't do a lot of, you can use some of the same type of techniques, but I think a spinnerbait would come into play. and maybe just a swim bait rigged up somehow, like we talked about on a swimmer head or something.
That suicide shad buzz would probably be a good.
That'd probably be a good
year.
choice too. Definitely, I would think that'd be some ways. I know that when we were up in Winona the other year on the Mississippi River, we would catch them on that little swimmer head. Me and Mike McClellan were, and they were pounding that thing. It was crazy because that's what they were after. If you can match that bait to the size of shad, those fish bit it really good.
A lot of times, smaller bait.
Yeah, it seems to be more of
deal.
a finesse deal, I think. I agree with that. So that's just some ideas. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the proverbial, but something to think about, And if you find in your lake the fish don't get up in the creeks like that, try it on the flats. I think you'll find they'll be wandering around falling in pods of bait,
I think it's for sure a transition. It's not, they don't go just one to the other.
No doubt. And as cooler it gets, the better it gets, no doubt. So I agree with you 100%. Well, that's kind of all I've got. Unless we got any questions. Did we get any questions in?
Yeah, 2 come in.
Good. Let's talk about them then.
Lowboy 55.
All right, Lowboy.
He asked for offshore football jig tips.
Two ways to fish it, I think. I mean, you put your chunker or trailer or some type on it. I like a fighting frog, and you either drag it or you stroke it. And that's the 2 ways to catch it. If you know what I mean by stroking, it means you hop it, and 90% of your bite's going to hit on the fall. True. And if you're just dragging it along like a worm, he's just going to pick it up, But that's the 2 ways I would fish it out there for sure. And, you use the color. As far as the color goes, I like to go with the color I like, depending. In that time, in the heat of the summer, usually it's a green pumpkin berry of some kind, or crawl maybe looking color. So definitely something to think about.
All right, and last one here, Luke B35. He was asking about how to fish a drop shot, or sort of maybe your setup there.
Well, I don't fish a drop shot a lot here, but when I do, I normally I use that rig like I use on the show with the little cylindrical, the little ball weight clipped on the end of it, and then the hook tied into it. And I like to just drag it along here to fish it. But now, like when I was in Buffalo catching smallmouth, we just drop it down the side of the boat and shake it, and they would bite it. So I think there's several different ways. If you watch TV this weekend, all them bass guys were just dropping it and they were shaking it, making the fish come get it and bite it,
I think live scope or, that kind of deal.
That's got a lot to do with that too. I mean, just my experience out here, what I've done with a drop shot on our lake here, we've thrown it just like a plastic worm and kind of just drug it along and we get bites that way.
Yeah, especially if your fish are not necessarily glued on the bottom.
That's right, definitely. So that's my idea behind it anyway.
Sure.
But we appreciate the call-in questions in the end, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody here next week live at Big Bite Bait. Y'all have a good week.